As part of our Summer Beach Read series, we have Dean Koontz with us to talk about the latest called The City. Dean, welcome to the show. Now, this is a follow-up, right? As it continues after Innocence?
Well, only in the sense that both books are set in what I call the universal city. It's a city of my invention, which has pieces of many real cities in it. I long enjoyed the books by mystery novels by Ed McBain set in a mythical city. They were the 87th Precinct novels, and I always envied him that he could do with his city what he wanted, and finally I've done that with these two books, but otherwise they have different casts.
How free did that feel, to create your own city?
It's kind of an additional level of fun. You can think of all kind of ways. In Innocence, it was a very weather-specific book, too, so I could write about a city in the throes of winter in a way that gave me more freedom because I didn't have to get all the streets exactly like somebody who lived in New York would expect them. And it's just another liberating thing you can do. So in this case, I've got a totally different character, this child prodigy on a piano. He's 57 years old, telling what happened to him when he was 8, 9, and 10. And setting that in a city, it seemed the only place you could set a novel about jazz and music and everything and have it really have the live excitement that music has. It's almost always associated with the city.
Now, is his name really as long as a football field?
The lead character who tells his story is Jonah Ellington, Basie Hines, Eldridge, Wilson, Hampton, Armstrong, Kirk, and those are all legendary names in jazz, especially big band. And he's been given all these names to live up to, and yeah, he's got a great future, but his life is also full of tragedy and the unexpected because, after all, this is a Koontz novel, so it's not going to be easy going for him.
Of course. Now, you're set in the late 60s. Is there a reason because was it the music that was out at that time?
I'd never done before having an adult character telling the story, so it's in an adult voice with adult observations, but it's actually the central figure is him when he's 8, 9, and 10, and his family. So to do that, I needed to have him be of our time, but the story set back when. And, of course, I left high school during the 60s and thought I really remembered that period very well and was interested in writing about it. And I went back to it and started researching it to refresh my mind and discovered, we sometimes, day by day, goes by and you think, well, the world's all going to hell in a handbasket, isn't it? And it was interesting to go back to the 60s and see that was what everybody thought then, too. So that's one thing that doesn't change.
So we'll all survive the hell in the handbasket, huh?
Yeah. There's a thing in this boy goes through his struggles, and he has this sort of mystical mentor, this woman that shows up in his life and claims to be the soul of the city and does for him important things, gets him a piano when he needs one. And at his worst moments, she tells him that whatever happens, whatever may come, and no matter how bad it is, it all turns out all right in the end. And that's sort of one of the underlying themes of the novel, that no matter how bad it gets in life, you can get where you want. And no matter what happens, there's always happiness at the end of it. And I really believe that. I'm a stoned optimist.
Now, Dean, did you always want to write?
I was in a family that didn't even have books in the house, and when I was 8 years old, I started writing stories and binding them up in little booklets and peddling them to relatives for a nickel, and I'd even draw the covers, though not well. And I'm not entirely sure where that came from, but by the time I was, I think, 12, I had read all the books for kids and young adults in the library, and you, in those days, weren't allowed to go into the adult section until you were 16, and the librarian said, in your case, I'll make an exception. So books were fascinating to me as a reader, and in my family, books were considered a waste of time. But I wasn't only reading, I was writing from a very young age, and it's kind of mysterious in some ways.
And yet you still continue to find original ideas. Where do you draw inspiration from?
Sometimes it's the littlest thing that you're listening to a song on the radio. I remember listening to a song by Paul Simon on the radio. I was coming back from an interview with, or not an interview, but a film meeting at a studio, and you come out of those meetings generally wanting to kill all the people in attendance, the studio executive. So you're not in a great mood, and I started listening to Paul Simon on the radio, and there was an old song of his called Patterns, and there was a line in it, "My life is made of patterns that can scarcely be controlled." And it gave me an idea within 15 minutes for a novel called Life Expectancy. Others come, you know not from where. The City, I had no idea where this came from. I just started to noodle on the page thinking I was writing a short story, and the next thing I knew, I realized it was going to be a novel, and it was one of the easiest writes I've ever had. It didn't have a moment of struggle in it. It's just as if it was given to me.
The newest book is called The City by Dean Koontz. Check out the website, deankoontz.com. Dean, thanks for being with us.
Well, thanks for having me there.
Do nothing till you hear from me. Pay no attention to what's said. Why people tear the seams of anyone's dream is over my head. Do nothing till you hear from me. At least consider our romance. If you should take the word of others you've heard, I haven't got a chance.